As railway mysteries go, there's not a lot left to uncover, but we can certainly try and unravel how things turned out the way they did. Now, one such mystery is why Midland Railway never reached the south coast, at least under their own steam. Have a quick look at this map by Rail Map Online. Now, you're looking at exactly what I did a few weeks ago, and well, I was wondering why all these branch lines never carried on from where they ultimately got to. And then I saw these GWR branches, and I wondered why they too went to nowhere. And this void in the landscape somehow managed to escape railway mania. Welcome to the story of why Midland Railway didn't reach the south coast under their own steam, but perhaps more importantly titled, why all those lines didn't ever join up. So let's start here with this little graphic. 1840, London to Bristol was connected by GWR, ensue railway mania. Not long after this, Midland Railway also reached Bristol, but this time from the north. Well, at least 1845 they take over the line that did. Game on. 1845 and the Wiltshire and Gloucester Junction Railway was proposed. It would have passed Tetbury and Avening. Now, this sounds really positive, although I'm not sure who it was proposed by, perhaps an independent company. It's difficult not to see Midland Railway benefiting in any way. It didn't come to anything, like so many of the railways at the time. Although there was an act that passed, that was the Cheltenham and Great Western Union Railway, which joined, or intended to join, Swindon on up to Cheltenham, but it didn't make it. Certainly in its early days, there's a disused station on this main line which still exists today, Minty and Ashton Keynes. It headed on up here, but it didn't make it as far as Cheltenham. In fact, it turned to the east and went to Cirencester.
Just like that, just like that.
In steps GWR, and as Midland Railway reach Bristol, GWR take over this line and connect it on up through the Cotswolds to Gloucester. This bit of territory is now firmly in their grip, and at this point Midland Railway must have sensed that their task to reach the south coast had become significantly harder. So my journey is going to start right here. In fact, I'm still on an old abandoned railway right now. I'm going to walk along the Tetbury Branch Line, but that didn't sound like a very exciting YouTube video in its own right. So I thought I'd tell you the story of all of those branch lines whilst I walk along the Tetbury Branch Line. Now we're here at Kemble, and it used to have a couple of branch lines going out from either side. It's an active station still at the moment. The Tetbury Branch Line went towards the west from this station. The old platform was just over there now. Kemble's quite a beautiful little station. It's got a lot of architecture and a lot of hat tips to the old railways. So join me today as I walk along the Tetbury Branch Line and tell you the story of all of those mini branch lines and why they didn't really ever meet up. I'll try and find the first stop on the Tetbury Branch Line, which is Jacquermans Halt. So this was a wooden halt set up in 1939, quite late obviously in the railway grander scheme of things, for the workers who built the RAF base, which is now I guess Kemble Airport. Okay, so Jacquermans Halt is somewhere up here. It's only some wooden platforms, so I guess I'm not going to see anything. Scouted around a bit but can't find much. Some lovely old culverts around here though. (1856) and we have the Dursley and Midland Junction Railway right at the top on the left of the map. Now by and large this isn't an attempt by Midland Railway to head south for a start. It's too close to the already existing Bristol line. It's moreover Midland Railway just inheriting it as such because it's making such losses. Now we're just coming up to Rodmarton platform. Ahead of me are two large bridge abutments. You can hear me over the traffic. Now Rodmarton platform, as far as can be told, built 1904, is one of the first places to use the term platform, somewhere between halt and station. is my understanding. I wonder if there's any way up. Oh, look.
Just like that, just like that.
I actually thought there may be something left of this platform, being as it is a platform rather than a halt. Alas, nothing left. I'm pretty sure it is this side, so we would see it if there was just the thin embankment of the railway, which is beautiful in itself. So we shall move on. 1867, the story continues, and we do have a line that's further away from the Bristol line, which could be a viable route south. There's a story we've told before. You can check out the link here. It's the Stonehouse and Nailsworth branch line. Again, built independently, run out of money within a year or so, once again taken over by the Midland Railway Company. So is this a route south? Is this something the Midland Company can now get to grips with and carry it on?
Just like that, just like that.
So stood just above Churchill's Halt, opened 1959, I guess an attempt to rescue the railway. Closed when the railway closed in 1964, and I can see very little remains, even from down by the bridge. No steps up, nothing, no pathways that I could see. All gone, I'm afraid. Onwards to the east, west, west. So as far as the Tetbury line itself goes, built 1889, an attempt by GWR to connect some more of the populations and the industry in this area. Kind of a bit of a red herring in the whole story, because the whole story still remains, why did Midland Railway not connect down south by their own steam? This line really ultimately probably has nothing to do with that story, but I still wanted to tick it off because there's a lot of stations, so forgive me for my own indulgence. And this is one of two that was actually built when the line opened itself, so 1889. Culkerton station and Tetbury were the only ones on there. Obviously halts, as we've seen, added along the way. Private house. What has confused me is the way it looks now. It's like a huge signal box. I really would love to see an old picture of Culkerton. Can't seem to find one on the internet, but obviously that's now a private residence. It was opened, as I say, as one of the main stations on the line, closed in 1956, reopened in 1959 as a halt with some of the other halts. I think Bradshaw always referred to it as a station, didn't add halt. You make a wonderful noise. So we're just picking up the last section of the line before we get into Tetbury. We've missed the station Trouble House Halt, one of the quirkier disused stations that we've seen. It tells this wonderful story which summarises for me the end of the railway era. It was only open for 5 years, but it obviously played such an important part in that period for the lives of the people that lived around it and used it and utilised it, because the last train to leave this line headed down to Paddington, and it contained from that station, Trouble House Halt, a coffin with empty whiskey jars in, and they were all inscribed with Richard Beeching on them as a sort of act of defiance, if you will. It's a beautiful little story, and there's a few others from this line too, which I won't bore you with right now, but just Google Trouble House Halt. And what we are going to see now is a last beautiful section of this line as we try and piece together all of these branch lines in this area. We've got one more to talk about as we head into Tetbury. I'm really pleased I found this part of the line to walk on. Stop line. The old war effort to stop tank invasion, I guess. Right there, never knew that was part of this area of the world. So I'm really pleased I found this bit of track bed that we're walking along, because it's probably the only bit of today's walk that we can actually do that, and it is really rather beautiful. I think we've got another mile or so to go before we get into Tetbury, and it's probably time we talked about one last branch line in this area, and that's the Malmesbury branch line. Now, very early on, We talked about the 1845 proposed route, straight line across there, which would have taken into account Malmesbury, but it took till 1865 for Malmesbury to be back on the cards, this time with the Wiltshire and Gloucester Railway Company. The word junction's gone now. This was great news. The people of Malmesbury got extremely excited, and again, an independent company. The first sod was cut in Malmesbury, 1865. There was a station, a tunnel, and a joyous time. Such was the enthusiasm of the company. They said to GWR and Midland Railway at the time that they would build the railway both standard gauge and broad gauge. What could possibly go wrong? Well, immediately that rang alarm bells, certainly for GWR and probably for Midland Railway to a degree, because that meant that they would both be able to get into each other's territory. Progress on the line pretty much came to a halt straight away. GWR found every possible way to get out of their agreement with the Wiltshire and Gloucester Railway Company, and they did that. Malmesbury would unfortunately have to wait another 13 or 14 years before it got its own railway, and even then it was just a branch up from Dauncey on the GWR main Bristol to London line. Midland Railway, though, didn't seem too displeased at the time, because they already had an ace up their sleeve they'd yet to use. So from the Tetbury Branch Line itself, well, this is the end of the line in Tetbury, and there's so many little hat tips to the railway here. The old turntable there, station building, or at least a station goods shed, perhaps that's what it was, and a million other different hat tips to the railway just back down there. Lovely little parkland area here, very quiet, very tranquil, until I came along and started waffling. So what was the ace? It was up the sleeve of the Midland Railway. Well, Somerset and Dorset Railway was losing money, and eventually it was taken over jointly by the Midland Railway and London South Western Railway, which kind of makes sense. Brings a nice conclusion to the end of this, and why Midland Railway didn't reach the south coast by their own steam, although they did reach the south coast perhaps under terms they didn't exactly want, having to share it with another railway company. So this has been every disused station from the Tetbury Branch Line. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you've enjoyed this type of video, because we do still want to cover railways, even though we do stray a little bit from them. We'll see you this time next Sunday. Thanks for watching.
Just sit there, just sit there.